What up guys, Dan here, great to be back. I was in France for about a week, now I'm back in the States, and I want to share a video with you. So in this video I want to talk about, someone asked me, what measurements do I need to have a classic physique? And let's talk about that, because Steve Reeves is the man who sort of created this whole entire system that the calves have to be the same size as the biceps, this and that. And while that system is, it's nice to follow, it's nice to have there, it's nice to be in place, but in my own opinion, I feel like that's all that stuff doesn't matter, because let's start off with the Vince Gironda. Vince Gironda says, what does it matter with the scale? It says if all you care about is what you look like in the mirror. Now, this is very controversial to what Steve Reeves, created his system in place, that, okay, if you're 5'9", you got to weigh about 170, 180 pounds or something like that. I can't really remember. Now, Vince Gironda being the absolute king of cosmetic bodybuilding, this guy trained many different, famous bodybuilders, famous actors. You got Cheech and Chong, you got Carl Weathers, you got Clint Eastwood, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger, you got tons of other, famous bodybuilders that train in his gym. This man was the king of cosmetic bodybuilding. He created his own specific exercises to work specific muscle groups to create a specific type of look. It is very, it's very technical. He had a very technical way and approach towards bodybuilding that worked really, really well. This guy made, Arnold Schwarzenegger into a prime bodybuilding figure that could win competitions. Joe Weider brought Arnold to Vince. So, you want to compare sort of concepts of, Vince Gironda's cosmetic bodybuilding, where it's like, measurements don't really matter, weight doesn't really matter. And Steve Reeves put into place of, his philosophy of, the Greek god ideal measurements, measurements, weights and whatnot. But in my own opinion, I completely agree with Vince Gironda, just because, all that stuff doesn't matter. Like, if I remember correctly, Reg Park didn't have biceps that matched his calves. The biceps were actually bigger than the calves in terms of measurements, but in his own appearance, the calves looked way, like very proportional with the biceps. So it's like, hey, if he wasn't even right, and we consider Reg Park to be very, very classic, so what does it matter if he's, the measurements aren't right? Because if he didn't have them right, all this falls apart pretty much. But in my own opinion, I really, resonate with Vince Gironda's idea where it's like all these measurements don't matter, these weight doesn't matter. I think it's so much easier because, again, bodybuilding is an observation sport. It's not really, when you get on stage, someone's like, oh, wow, this guy weighs 180 pounds. He has the right measurements. He must be the winner. No, it's all ultimately decided upon appearance and aesthetics. Having the right symmetry, right, the lines, the right proportions, having the right conditioning, all that stuff, that's what really wins a contest. Just like Mr., all these other contests that you have, they're one off of appearance, not really measurements. And even if you have the measurements, I think ultimately that's not what's gonna make you look classic. I think if you just really, narrow it down to just, focusing on the look, focusing on the right muscle groups, like, the right muscle groups to create symmetry, to create those proportions. Like, I'll be talking about more about how to do that in my upcoming course I'll be releasing pretty soon. Super pumped to be sharing that with you. But yeah, I think, if you just work really hard at the specific muscle groups, specific, use specific exercises, that you can create a look that is classic without really having to worry too much about the numbers. Because when you worry about all these numbers, the weight, the measurements, like of the arms and whatnot, you get very anxious. You're like, oh my gosh. And you start to worry, and you start, to overcomplicate things. Oh, well, this is not the right size. But me, it's like, hey, tons of people think I'm classic. Do I ever really measure my neck, my biceps, my calves? No, like, I literally only measured my biceps and my calves like once or twice, and they so happen to be the right size. And I didn't even do that consciously. It was unconscious, So it's like, a lot of people consider me classic, but I don't measure any of that stuff. Like, so what? Like, it doesn't even matter to me. I just focus on the look. Focus on the symmetry, all the proportion. I do it. Again, bodybuilding is an intelligent sport. You have to be a really good observer, like Frank Zanes says. Frank Zanes says, all these measurements, these measurements are just numbers of reality. There's measurements of reality. They don't really, I feel like they don't really mean anything in terms of, actual aesthetics and appearance. They really don't make a difference too much. And you add an inch to your biceps, is anybody gonna really notice? Not really. I mean, if you add, tons of inches, yeah, someone's definitely gonna, But again, like, the whole illusion makes so much more of a difference. And I'm going to talk more about this in my course. If you just create an illusion with your physique, you can look 2 times bigger than you actually look. This is cosmetic bodybuilding, guys. Cosmetic bodybuilding is creating an illusion with your physique. Working specific muscle groups to create a specific type of look that will make you look bigger and create a physique that is out of this world. So again, the illusion is ultimately going to create you a classic look, not these measurements. You focus on these measurements, you're going to create a look that is just sort of, it's not going to look classic. I'll be honest with you. If I really concerned myself with numbers, I probably wouldn't be in the physique I am, I have today. Just because, they make you really anxious, they make you start to worry, and I just don't think it's going to create a look that is classic. I think if you just focus on, specific muscle groups, and I think this is my third time repeating it, just working the symmetry, working proportion, working the lines, you're going to ultimately creating a look that looks classic. So don't worry about these numbers. Again, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this video was valuable. Drop a comment what you think of the concept of Vince Serrano. Don't worry about what the scale says. If all you care about is what you look like in the mirror. Or do you agree more with Steve Reeves' philosophy that you have to have a specific type of height and weight, that accommodates each other? You have to have the specific type of measurements, that the biceps and the calves have to be the same size. Drop a comment below what you think. Actually, last one thing I want to say is that my Silver Era Secrets book is going to be gone forever. If you want to pick it up before it's gone forever, the link is in the description. With that being said, subscribe for more videos like this. Drop a comment. I'm Old School Dan. I'm gone. Peace. Love you. Gone.